Hi, everybody. It says I'm live. So I guess I'm live. Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. What a special event. I mean, normally we just get to see you and hang out Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. or Saturday mornings at 11. But this is a rare Monday edition of At the Mic. So welcome to this, the worst presidents of all time. This is the tournament selection show. This is a big deal, obviously. The not so sweet 16, if you will. So anyway, I appreciate you making time here on this Monday afternoon. I will explain how this is going to work and how you, absolutely you, will determine the outcome of this tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to play out over the course of the next couple of weeks. So be prepared for that and for your participation. But as I said, on this channel every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, whether it's streaming over on X, Twitter, at Keith Malinak, or on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/atthemic with Keith. So if you are watching on Twitter and you aren't familiar with the YouTube channel, that is where the shows are archived, all the Friday live streams, all of the Saturday morning thing. Right now we're in the middle of Saving Disney History with Ed McCrae. A lot of important information there. My gosh, it's fascinating, all the information that Ed has been sharing. But please take some time, go over and look at the playlist. We do all sorts of stuff. youtube.com/atthemic with Keith. So thank you for making time. I'm going to bring in a friend of mine. My goodness, I have known Tank Spencer for exactly 20 years. He and I worked together for several years in Charleston, South Carolina, starting back in, what was it, 2004, bro?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
that was a long time. Can you hear me okay?
It's not great. I
Hear me
mean,
now?
yeah, I
Not
don't know.
great.
No, it's actually worse than the
Like it.
mic that you had before. Yeah, and in fact, it's so bad that you and I cannot speak at the same time. I'm going to take you off here for just a second while Jeremy hooks you up with a better microphone. Oh, you going back to that microphone there? Oh, let's try this.
I got to go back.
There we go. That's good. That's fine. That's fine, Tank. And by the way, Tank Spencer, he hosts a daily podcast. Do I have this right? It's Sportsocracy is the name of that podcast. You and Jeremy, who has minimal skills in microphone setup, but has helped out tremendously with some of the graphics here that we're going to use. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for getting this thing set up on your end. But Jeremy's your co-host on your Sportsocracy podcast, correct?
Yes, he is, and he's supposed to be the one that does all of the technical things.
Oh.
I'm terrible at technical things. Like, I mean, if it's not audio and AM broadcasting,
see,
I don't get the whole streaming thing.
Right. So the cool thing about this is that it sounds like AM radio coming from your end. So it actually,
there you go.
It's an element that we're not used to having. So it actually it's kind of going old school. Okay, so
look, we don't all have that big money like you do, you know.
Oh my gosh! Don't stop. Check this out. I have this song here because I thought, you know, in the vein of, because I'm like you, man. I'm not a technical guy. I've got it playing on a phone externally here, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go search for a song that kind of fits the college basketball type vibe, since that's what this is a playoff of. Our bracket here, our tournament selection show. It aired yesterday, as it always does, for March Madness. And so this is, let's see what you think about this. This is, I don't know, man. I need your opinion, Tank.
Okay.
I mean,
that's not bad.
It's not bad, right? Okay,
yeah.
So I don't know how much use we'll get out of it, but
and welcome into the selection show. It is very it is very over the top.
Welcome to the tournament selection show, everybody. It's the worst presidents of all time. So I've got that available to me, but let's see here. Okay, we got so much to get to. I want to explain how this is going to work. Let me get my cheat sheet here. So you know what though? Before I do that, let me play what Jeremy made here, because see, it's a little bit better, I'd say. What? There it is. America's worst president.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the bracket. That's a nice bracket right there, I'll tell you that. So nice job, Jeremy.
Yeah, he did a great job on this one.
He spent all of his time on the graphics and none of it on the audio, clearly. But so hang on a second here. Let me see if I can get. All right, so I'm gonna get the bracket back up here because let's see here. See, I'm not technical either. So we got that going for us here. Let's see. I'm gonna take that down here. There we go. That's the one I want. And boom, there's the bracket. Wow, how professional are we, Tank Spencer?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how this is going to work. We're going to go through these matchups. We're going to reveal all of the tournament participants, and obviously there's 45 presidents that we've had. 44. I don't know if you want to get technical. 46. I don't know. Where are we at now? Anyway, that we've had in
46.
American history. But we're starting with the committee. The committee went through and they narrowed it down for us, down to just 16. So the not so sweet 16. Okay. So that's where we're at there. So we're going to start with the 16. And what's going to happen is every day starting on Thursday. So this Thursday, March 21st, be looking at my Twitter. I don't know if you can read it there, at Keith Malinak. I'm going to pin it to the top of the page every day. And so for, I guess, I don't know how many hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, probably something like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to post it. You'll have a chance to vote. And then you're going to determine who makes it to the next round. So we're going to do this. I've done the calculus here, and it's going to go all the way through, I guess, the NCAA basketball tournament, the Monday, April 8th. So like the final four is going to be, the four participants are going to be playing in Hades. And then the championship game is going to be in the inner sanctum of Hades.
It's Hades, correct? They're not in Haiti.
No. Well, you know what?
All right.
It's almost one and the same these days.
You're not wrong.
So be looking for that, ladies and gentlemen. You are going to determine each round who makes it, who moves along here. So the selection committee, they've made their determination as to who is going to be in this tournament, and so I guess without further ado, and by the way, the selection committee wants you to know that just because like the first president comes up, that doesn't mean it's not like the NCAA. They're not necessarily the number one overall seed. Okay. I mean, they're a number one seed, but maybe not necessarily number one overall. So without further ado, let's start to fill out our bracket as we reveal the worst presidents in American history. The not so sweet 16 here. Keith Malinak and Tank Spencer, number one. And this is in the United bracket. That's right. There's four brackets. There's the United, then there's the States, and there's the of bracket. That's catchy. And then there's the America bracket. But our first participant, there it is, not a surprise. Woodrow Wilson is a number one seed. I don't think that's a shock.
No,
Tank, do you have any thoughts on Woodrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a shock, and it's definitely a candidate that should be number one overall candidate. Woodrow Wilson. I mean,
what can you say about him? He wasn't a great
president. He led us into World War II, right?
World War One. He campaigned on not taking us to war,
and then
immediately
that whole Treaty of Versailles thing
after he was reelected. But he's definitely a tournament favorite. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan began after the Civil War, but it was defunct pretty much until Woodrow revived it, resuscitated the KKK at the White House, in fact, when he did a screening of the movie Birth of a Nation. And Woodrow Wilson, of course, resegregated the armed forces, imposed U.S. will on Latin American countries. He signed the federal income tax into law. Woodrow Wilson's got a lot of stuff going for him as he enters the tournament.
Oh, yeah. The Espionage and Sedition Acts that, I mean...
Yeah. And so
persecution on a whole new level, right?
One thing that people don't give Woodrow Wilson enough credit for, and I hope that the voters, you, if you're watching, you're a voter, you're a participant in this. I hope one thing that they will consider, if they're going to determine if he's going to make it on to round two and so forth, is that he doesn't get enough credit for Russia's collapse and the rise of communism over in Russia, because around roundabout way, communist Russia is the fault of Woodrow Wilson, since he insisted that Russia remain at war long after they wanted to get out. And so what happened was the economy and the nation just collapsed under its own weight, and you had the rise of the Bolsheviks and other groups. And the next thing you know, you've got communist Russia for the next 70, 80 years. So thank you so much, Woodrow Wilson. Oh, yeah, that's right. He also he made prohibition a thing, right?
Thanks for that.
So anyway, I'm just saying that Woodrow Wilson's got a lot going for him. He's a favorite in any tournament where the word suck is involved. And so Woodrow Wilson claiming our first number 1 seed. Let's see what you think with his matchup here. Franklin Pierce. Wow.
Oh, that is tough.
This doesn't surprise you as an analyst, Hank Spencer. You were expecting Franklin Pierce in this tournament, correct?
I was expecting him to be a number 1 seed. I mean, he basically just led us into the Civil War. That should count for something, right? And plus, you got to be pretty damn bad at your job if your party goes, you know what, we're good. We don't want you to run for another term. Because I don't think there's been another president that's happened to.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But yeah, you're right. Franklin Pierce, he wanted to annex Cuba, turn them into another slave state. That'll definitely get you into this tournament. Bleeding Kansas, obviously a lowlight from his term in office. And like you said, set the stage for a U.S. Civil War. But yeah, his own Democrat Party refused to nominate him for a second term, which is just hysterical. May seem like an obscure entry, I guess, for a lot of people, but no surprise. In fact, you think that he should have been a higher seed. Is that right?
I mean,
the number 1
although
seed,
there's some pretty bad ones here.
Yeah. We still got a long way to go, don't we? Okay, hold on. Is this where I hit the music again in between matches, or no? It's not bad, man.
No, I just wish it was like connected so I could hear it better. Because now it sounds worse than my microphone to me.
I could say the same thing about
that's
you.
Not good.
Okay, so this matchup, by the way, you're going to look for it at Keith Malinak on Thursday, March 21st. Woodrow Wilson versus Franklin Pierce. Look for the poll. Be sure to vote, and we will see who makes it on to the second round, where they will face the winner of our next matchup. There he is. A number 2 seed, though. Franklin Roosevelt. Interesting, huh? Would you not expect him to be a 1 seed?
Well, no, I mean, you very rarely, or at least I very rarely hear Franklin Delano Roosevelt's name mentioned in the worst presidents of all time. I mean, a lot of people credit him with, leading us through the war and all of that. And there are some fans of the safety net programs, but if you're not, I get why he's a number 2 seed.
Yeah. There's a lot to say about Franklin Roosevelt. Obviously, you mentioned the New Deal, which you would think would get you a number 1 seed just from that alone, really. There's old Franklin. Look at him. So he ignored, of course, the precedent set by George Washington to step down after 2 terms. He thought he should go for 4. God had other plans, so he got 3 and some change. Anyway, Great Depression lasted longer than it did anywhere else here in America, thanks to the policies of FDR and the big government spending. And let's not forget that he put Americans in internment camps, Japanese Americans, during World War II. That's going to get you a high seed for sure, Franklin Roosevelt. So congratulations to you, sir. Let's see who his opponent is here in the United bracket. It's going to be Richard Nixon. Okay, as a 3 seed. What do you think of that? What are your first reactions to Richard Nixon, Tricky Dick, as a 3 seed, Tank Spencer?
Well, of course, the Watergate scandal comes to mind. And so people like to, bag on our previous president, the one that's running for president again. It's probably going to win. People like to bag on him for his war against the media. Richard Nixon, I think, wrote the book on that one, or at least for the 1970s.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So,
do you know the Jack Anderson story?
Oh, tell us. I like stories.
so Jack Anderson was he's a syndicated columnist that went just after Richard Nixon and the Nixon administration. Nixon had the CIA investigate him to the point where they got together to talk about how to kill this guy.
What?
Talking about putting poison in his aspirin bottles and how they could spike his drink or smear LSD on a steering wheel so that he would absorb it through his skin, and that way he would die in a hallucination-crazed auto crash.
In the world? I love this story. I've never heard this.
I found it when we were doing the research on this. I was like, why have I never heard this story?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he was the president, and they covered everything up. Including the Watergate thing.
I just want to thank Tank Spencer for actually doing research for this goofy little live stream. So thank you.
No doubt.
That is fascinating. I got to look that up. If there's a book on that, you send it my way, man, because I'm very intrigued. So obviously Richard Nixon is going to be a solid entry into this tournament. Oh, suck. The worst presidents of all time. I'm pissed at him for taking the U.S. off the gold standard and for giving us awesome departments such as the EPA and OSHA. But you mentioned Watergate, obviously derailing his second term after it was discovered that members of his own administration were involved in illegal activities, breaking into his presidential opponent's office. Everybody knows this. And once it became clear that he was obstructing justice, and he decided, you know what? I don't want to be impeached. I'm a take off now. Thanks, y'all. And so he just resigned. So Dick Nixon is our number 3 seed in the United bracket. 4 presidents down, 12 to go. We should maybe head over to the states bracket. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Sleepy Joe.
Joe Biden checking in as a number 1 seed in the states region. Any thoughts on Joe Biden that you can say over the air? Thanks, Spencer.
Well, I mean, where do you start with this guy? He doesn't even know where he is half the time.
That's fair.
And then Biden. You talk about, just the complete failures that have been, Bidenomics and, shaking hands with people that aren't there. And
can I just show you? Look at this
what
picture.
was it? I heard Bill Maher talking about the other day. Okay, so he didn't get the dismount on Afghanistan, but it's been okay.
Oh my!
Shut your face.
That's what he said. Okay, first of all, I got to show you this.
Dismount wasn't perfect.
All of these pictures the committee brought to the to this extravaganza of a live stream were taken from whitehouse.gov. Have you ever seen so much airbrush in all of your life? Bro did not look like that at any point during his term.
At least he doesn't have the little ball chin or whatever that is that you know when he leans his head the right way, his little sack comes out of his chin. Yeah,
that's awesome. But yeah, this is I guess a lot of people are gonna have to consider Joe Biden a favorite in this tournament, don't you think? I mean, if there was a number 1 overall seed, it would probably belong to Joe Biden.
Well, and there's also that recency bias thing.
Recency bias,
the latest worst thing that we've had. So yeah, he's going to be one of the worst of all time. I mean, it's like people who think NC State's going to go far in the NCAA tournament. You just saw them win the ACC, so you think they're going to make a deep run. No, they're not. They're going to fall on their face like they always do. Hey, Joe does that too.
He does fall on his face. But, I mean, look, when you take a constitutional republic and then you institute Marxism at the levers of power, that's quite an accomplishment. And that's going to earn you a 1 seed just on that accomplishment alone. I think the administration's ability to just lie with a straight face is also quite an accomplishment. You've got a wide open border. You've got massive deficit spending, that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan that you mentioned. I mean, that just scratches the surface of this administration. I think the cherry on top is his forcing of vaccines on the military, on government employees, on healthcare workers. So there's a lot there to love of Joe Biden, and he has earned a number 1 seed here on the tournament selection show. So kudos to Joe Biden. Let's see who his first round opponent is going to be. Oh, is this a surprise here? Look at the selection
George W.
committee
Bush?
dropping a George W. Bush as a 4 seed in here. What are your thoughts about that, Tank?
Well, I mean, he is, to my knowledge, the only president who's been shooed by, in a foreign country. I don't know any other president that had a shoe thrown at his face.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. All right.
And then, of course, the weapons of mass destruction thing.
Weapons of mass destruction thing, that definitely earns him some points. I think that the committee really looked at his overall body of work. It didn't just focus on, hey, he got us through 9/11. I mean, that was an early season victory. And then it kind of goes downhill from there. I think the RPI really comes into play here, especially when you consider a way to combat terrorism is to spy on your citizens through the NSA. So that might have something to do with him making it into this tournament. And like you said, headed to Iraq under false pretenses didn't help. And federal spending, obviously, under George W. Bush skyrocketed as well. And not just with defense. I mean, you had No Child Left Behind. So that was fun. And don't forget.
I'm still we worked together during this time.
Yeah,
we were together during the George W. Bush years, and I will just say I am still baffled that we didn't cover that up better. Like, okay, so we told everybody there were weapons of mass destruction. All right, if there were none, if my government is crooked as everyone has led me to believe my entire life,
they are.
Wouldn't they have? Wouldn't you have planted some to go? Hey, there they are.
Well, it's funny you say that because I read a book recently and there was a throwaway line in there, just one line. And if you recall, they actually did find old canisters of weapons of mass destruction. We're going to go so far off tangent here, but there was a throwaway line in this book that I was reading that talked about how the U.S. gave Saddam Hussein biological weapons to use against Iran. And I thought, so you're saying they knew that there was some sort of material over there that they actually discovered some shit. I've gone back and tried to find this story, and I can't find it now. But there was something. Anyway, we're going to go off on a tangent here. We already have. But if you'll also recall, toward the end of his presidency, and don't forget, you talk about recency bias, and this may have really swayed the committee toward the end of his schedule. I mean, his term. Remember now, he also bailed out private companies and, quote, said, I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system. That is, don't forget, that was too big to fail. That was too big to fail. George W. Bush coming in as a 4 seed in the states bracket of our tournament. So just so you know, if you're keeping score at home, Woodrow Wilson versus Franklin Pierce will be on Thursday's matchup this week. On Friday, we're going to have Franklin Roosevelt versus Richard Nixon. Joe Biden will take on George W. Bush on Saturday, March 23rd. Now we head to Sundays. We hit the halfway point of the tournament. Sunday, March 24th. Your contest will include a 2 seed, Andrew Jackson. Any thoughts on Andrew Jackson, Tank Spencer?
Well, as someone, who lives really close to the eastern band of the Cherokee Nation, and you got to start there. The Indian Removal Act obviously did him no favors.
That's right. Yep. I would say that a big thing on Andrew Jackson's resume is the Trail of Tears. Absolutely. You got to count that. The fact that the man completely ignored Supreme Court decisions, not only as president, but then as a general, ignored the president's orders when he served. That's why we had the Seminole War, is because of Andrew Jackson. And now, granted, we want to kind of keep this to his presidency, but I think you have to look at the body of work here. It may have been an exhibition game, but it just showed his character and his inability to follow orders later on as president, when the Supreme Court said, no, you can't move the Cherokee off of their land, but he didn't care. He was a slave owner, and not only that, but a slave trader. And of course, that's what he did. That's what started the Seminole War, was Andrew Jackson going after runaway slaves in Spanish territory. So, I mean, the United States was on the precipice of civil war during Andrew Jackson's presidency, honestly. The South Carolina threatened to leave because of tariffs. And so, I mean, this man was unstable just as a person and as a president. And so he has earned a 2 seed here in our worst presidents of all time tournament. Any more thoughts on Andrew Jackson?
Well, just this one little tidbit. I do have to kind of tip the cap to a guy who can face down an assassin.
Oh yeah,
and then beat him with your cane.
That's right. The gun didn't go off. Yeah.
January 30th, 1835. Richard Lawrence tried to shoot him. He brought 2 pistols, and they both failed. And when the second pistol failed, then Andrew Jackson took his cane and beat him until help arrived.
Oh my goodness.
That's sand.
That's wow. That's good. That's good. Okay. So who do you think his opponent is going to be? Now, remember, right now, you've got Woodrow Wilson. If things go according to plan, if the seeding goes right, it'll be Woodrow Wilson versus Franklin Roosevelt. It'll be Joe Biden versus Andrew Jackson. But Andrew Jackson first has to get by surprise entry. A lot of people may not expect this. James Buchanan as a 3 seed.
Huh. Okay.
There he is.
So
it's an interesting tournament fella.
Oh, yeah. So he was the president right before Lincoln. And then the end of his presidency was the start of the secession, correct?
Right, correct. So there's a lot to this cat. The Panic of 1857, a financial disaster for the nation. He supported the Dred Scott ruling by the Supreme Court that said slaves weren't U.S. citizens, but effectively property. And then they could be taken to free states, but again, they're just property. So you're still a slave, according to that ruling. And he also supported Kansas entering the Union as a slave state. And 7, like you mentioned, 7 states left the Union while James Buchanan was still president. James Buchanan. What a guy. Now he's of course affectionately referred to as Miss Nancy. And I mean, it's always good when you can get the LGBTQ community represented here in a tournament. And
that sounds like a story I need to hear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll send something your way for sure. So, but speaking of the LGBTQ community, we need to move on to the region, where the number 1 seed over there is Barack Obama. There we go.
Yeah, we know that one.
There he is. Hey, buddy. Okay, so he's another number 1 seed. Any thoughts on Barack Obama tank?
Well, there's that whole Obamacare thing that, well, that didn't go out the way we wanted it to. And then, and to me, he wasn't the birth of it, but he heightened every bit of divisive politics that we had in this country.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. It's a good point. There's just so much with Barack Obama, and in fact, he might
the federal government.
He could almost technically get 2 entries here into this tournament, but we'll let Joe have one. So you're right. I mean, he made it so that the marriage between the farm. You want to know why Democrats are so into big pharma today? Look back at the marriage between the government and the pharmaceutical companies with Obamacare. I mean, that's how I got through. But I took over a 7th? Is that what it was? 1/6, 1/7 of the federal of the what am I trying to say? The economy is the word, Keith. So that's what he did with that. The U.S. debt nearly doubled under Obama's watch. No surprise there. Again, this is Marxist's gonna Marxist or something. You talked about Nixon and journalists. Look at the targeting of journalists under Barack Obama's watch, and using you talked about weaponizing the government, going after Tea Party groups with the IRS. Journalists were targeted by this administration. Let's not forget Benghazi and the failure to protect a U.S. diplomat, and then creating some elaborate lie story to cover that up. But the expansion of government authority under the Obama administration was stark, and projecting that power was definitely one of the hallmarks of his presidency. And honestly, look, when you're raised by Marxists, I mean, he was made for this tournament. I mean, he was born for this tournament, I should say, because from the very beginnings, he was born to be in the worst presidents of all time tournament. Any more thoughts on Barack Obama there, Tank?
No, I think you covered all the bases.
You covered it
there.
all?
We,
Okay, so
we all know what a disaster that was.
would you like to see who the 4 seed is that he's going to face here?
Yeah.
It's William Howard Taft. Now, a
No,
lot of people.
this is easy. This is like a 116 matchup in the actual bracket. There's no way anybody's voting for William Howard Taft over Barack Obama.
I mean, that's what
kind
the
of the
committee
point, though.
decided here, because the committee, I'll tell you, the committee really hates federal income tax taxes, and they don't like paying them. And it exists today because of the support that William Howard Taft gave to it. He was initially against it, and he figured out this. You want to talk about something to read about? Figure out the way to get this through, because in the past it had expired, whether it was Civil War funding or later on. Eventually, it would roll away. But William Howard Taft, who apparently never did get stuck in a bathtub.
No,
but,
that's a
in
lie.
hindsight, in hindsight, I wish he had have, because I don't care for the federal income tax. Like I said,
Are you sure? That's like that's like one of my favorite.
you can look
stories.
that up. You can look that up for
Yeah.
sure.
I
He did
wanna.
not like being president, but and you'll recall Teddy Roosevelt, who many people were surprised didn't end up. Oh wait, sorry. As a spoiler alert, Teddy Roosevelt was a bubble team. The bubble may have burst for Teddy in this tournament, but you recall that Teddy Roosevelt running is what gave us against, because it's basically 2 Republicans, Teddy versus Taft, and that's how we ended up with the 1 seed out of the gate there, Woodrow Wilson. So big thanks to big boy William Howard Taft.
Well, I mean, if he hadn't have been so god awful.
Yeah.
Right. So he took over for Teddy because he was Teddy's Secretary of State or something like that. And then
I think you're right.
he was like Secretary of War, or I
He
don't
was
remember.
Secretary
Anyway,
of Bathtubs, I believe.
of bathtub. That's right.
Is
He
what he
was. He was the federal lardass of the Roosevelt White House. And then,
well, I tell you though, you know what? Shame on me, because one thing that Taft brings to this tournament is some strong mustache game. I mean,
True.
look at that thing. Look, that's impressive, right? You got to give the man credit for the mustache.
it's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, he needs a little like beard oil or something to put on that thing, but it's fine. It's just fine the way it is.
So this contest between Barack and William Taft is going to be on Monday, March 25th. You'll be able to vote all day and see who wins that entry against our next contest, which includes Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter coming with a 2 seed. A 2 seed for Jimmy Carter. What are your thoughts on Jimmy?
Well, I mean, he was, pretty feckless, right? I mean, he built some houses when he retired. When he was done with the presidency, he did some great humanitarian work. But
that's NIT
even
worthy
that
right
had
there.
I was gonna say even that had its relationships that may not be too favorable for him.
Feckless is a good word to describe the Jimmy Carter presidency. It was just one bad misstep after another. The nation suffered through a national energy crisis, stagflation, and this overall feeling of dread while Jimmy Carter was president. In quantifiable terms, the misery index, right? In America, the misery index hit an all-time high during the Jimmy Carter presidency, and we'll be challenging that soon enough today. The American hostages in Iran were on his watch. The failed rescue attempt. It was a rough presidency. The man handed over the Panama Canal. The ill-conceived boycott of the Olympics over Russia's invasion of Afghanistan. I mean, this is just so many gifts from the Carter administration. He earns a 2 seed. And so it'll be interesting to see how long Jimmy Carter lasts in this tournament, because I feel like recency bias has actually worked in his favor in recent years compared to other presidents.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of these guys just get more popular for what they do afterwards. Like, everybody hated George W. Bush, and now, I mean, there was a period there where it was like George W. Bush was becoming cool for a second. Now,
it's the art, right? It was the artwork.
Yeah, it was the artwork. Like, he was like the good old grandpa. But wait a minute. This is a couple of years ago. Y'all were calling him Hitler and marching in the street.
That's right. Okay, so obviously, big time recession on Jimmy Carter's watch, and so who's he going to go up against? How about the guy who the Great Depression happened under? What a very compelling matchup here in the first round. Jimmy Carter versus Herbert Hoover.
Economically speaking, this might be the biggest heavyweight matchup we have.
This is
whose economy was crappier?
Right.
I mean, I'd say Hoover's was.
Well, I keep talking about Hoover because I've there we go. Okay, I couldn't find my matchup here. This is going to be the Tuesday, March 26th contest for those that are itching to cast a vote for Jimmy Carter or Herbert Hoover. He was, of course, president when the Great Depression started. His response was stupid. He spent money for public works jobs. I mean, FDR's New Deal was it was Hoover's plan on steroids. So, I mean, he was the original big spender to try to somehow get America out of the Great Depression. And it failed. We had obviously challenging economic times throughout his term. Homeless encampments were named after him, Hoovervilles, as they were called. And now I did read that he wasn't a good communicator, and so his style left a lot of suffering Americans even that more angry and bitter. But anyway.
Well, I mean, if you've got a president that's up there talking about how much you're struggling, and I don't believe you, that kind of resonates. Mm-hmm. When you have the leader of your country talking about how, everyone is poor and we're really trying to make this better, and you can't come off to me just a little caring, then of course that's that misery index stuff you were talking about.
So if you're looking at the brackets there, the upper left corner is your United region. The bottom left corner is your states region. The upper right corner is your of region. And now we're going to reveal our fourth number 1 seed. Remember, our number 1 seeds, Woodrow Wilson, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. Who's going to claim the last number 1 seed available in the America bracket? It's going to be... I went right through Herbert. Sorry. Lyndon Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, it is.
LBJ.
Now, can I just say
is this because he might be responsible for another president's death? Or is this not that? Should I not have said that? I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. I tell you,
we don't know.
This is intriguing, because if all goes according to plan and the votes fall the way they are expected to go, you could have Barack Obama versus Lyndon Johnson in the final 4, and Woodrow Wilson versus Joe Biden. This could be epic. But as you said, Lyndon Johnson could have very well had something to do with the assassination of the previous president, John F. Kennedy, whose body was not yet cold when Johnson signed the papers that really escalated the U.S. involvement just a couple days after the assassination, the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. Don't get me started on the Gulf of Tonkin. And it's thousands of young Americans died as we went over there. And the nation was torn apart with societal upheaval back at home. And speaking of societal upheaval and change, look no further than Lyndon Johnson's Great Society and the destruction of the Black family, the ballooning of government spending. We already had an entrenched, massive federal government as it was, And this just brought it to the point of no return. LBJ with new federal departments, a growing bureaucracy, a war on poverty, like I said, that used welfare to effectively eliminate the need for a father in the home. And so, but to your point, Tank, about LBJ's possible involvement in the assassination of the previous president, John F. Kennedy, Johnson was joined at the hip with FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, and together the two worked to destroy Martin Luther King, in fact, the civil rights leader. So, anyhow, any thoughts, further thoughts on LBJ gets this well earned, well deserved number 1 seed, Lyndon Baines Johnson?
No doubt about it. The Great Society. I mean, that's where Medicare came from, or it was birthed out of the Great Society deal. And then, to me, it's with him. It's always been the Civil Rights Act. Like, yes, there's benefits to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But then you take that of, can I really mark that up as a major transformational win for a guy who was ultimately, truly, deep down just racist?
Oh
have you ever heard him talk about,
100%,
right? You hear him talk about African Americans in that time. I don't think you get much credit for that.
People, need to educate.
I'll give Congress credit for that.
So, well, boy, we could talk forever about things not related to this tournament. But I mean, you can also chalk up. He would pick his dog up by its ears. Don't do that, bro. You're just a trash human being. And also, my oldest daughter, when she saw me going through these pictures and getting everything organized yesterday, she reminded me that he was the president who would hold meetings while sitting on the toilet. And in fact, he would make his staff come in there. And then he had, there was one story where the guy didn't want to look at him while he was sitting on the toilet. And LBJ, it's like, look at me, son, when I'm talking to you. Bro, you're sitting on the freaking toilet, likely stinking up the entire room. LBJ was just a garbage human. Enjoy your 1 seed.
No doubt. He should win just for that.
Okay, so now this next entry, I'm telling you, man, this is it's gonna create some controversy, I'm sure. But look, the selection committee has spoken, and earning a 4 seed in the worst presidents of all time bracket in the states region is none other than Abraham Lincoln.
I get it, though. It's totally understandable. Do you know how we got to the point of him freeing the slaves?
I do.
He was the biggest abuser of presidential power in history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say this. A lot of people sitting down to enjoy the selection show today, they probably weren't expecting to see Honest Abe make it to the tournament, but here he is.
Not.
Okay, well, a deep resume, though, of, like you said, unconstitutional actions, which included taking over newspapers and jailing journalists who reported unfavorably about the administration. And let's not forget, the dude sent an invading force into former U.S. states. So that goes a long way at tournament time, obviously. And by the way, we have to kudos to Abraham Lincoln for the Emancipation Proclamation, where he freed slaves while actually freeing no slaves.
Yeah, it takes time. I'm just but one man. What really can I do?
Then why did your
other than
proclamation
hijack the entire process and wage a war on my own and all of the things?
The proclamation didn't apply to northern areas or slaveholding areas where the North had taken over. I mean, look this up. The Emancipation Proclamation was nothing more than a declaration to try to get a slave rebellion brewing in the South. And a lot of historians think it was just his last-ditch effort to try to win the war. But bottom line, Abraham Lincoln. Here's a fun fact. I wrote this down. We have to talk about this. Well, first, before I get to this incredible stat, let me just say that we've talked about his dictatorial tendencies. He used the military to crush rioters who were protesting being drafted into the Civil War. I mean, that's a good move. But listen to this: the national debt under Lincoln grew by what percentage? What percentage, Tank? Be the voice of the people. Give me a number. The national debt of the United States under Lincoln. Remember, they had just implemented our first national income tax. So they had this income of cash. What do you think the percentage the national debt grew under Abraham Lincoln? What percentage, sir?
I'm going to say 125%. I mean, we were at war, so we were borrowing money, right?
Okay. Tank Spencer going with 125% increase in the national debt. The national debt for the United States under Abraham Lincoln coming in as a 4th seed up against Lyndon Johnson. Just remember this, when it comes time to vote, Abraham Lincoln increased the national debt by 2,859%.
Do what?
I say 2,859.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So our last matchup here. Anybody come to mind that maybe you're expecting to see here in the tournament before we get to our bubble teams that didn't make it?
I haven't seen Warren G. Harding yet, and he's always on these lists.
Sir, take that back.
No?
That man picked
Really?
Calvin Coolidge. We'll talk later. No, it's Bill Clinton is missing. There he is. Bill Clinton coming in as a 2 seed. How could you forget Slick Willie?
Well, I mean, anyway, never mind. I was going to say something there, and
no, that's fine. That's great. Oh gosh, what happened to my screen here? There we go.
I was raised to believe that Bill Clinton was the greatest because he was the quote unquote sexiest president we had since John F. Kennedy. It's what every woman in my family tried to tell me when I was a kid.
Oh,
and I don't know if that's true, but I guess that's how I mean, it's kind of like, we'll go with the basketball analogy here again. It's kind of like those people who don't know basketball in your office pool and they pick the one that looks, the uniform that looks the best. That's kind of how I feel like my family voted for years. Was they got on the Jack Kennedy bandwagon back in the 60s, and then Bill Clinton came along and they were like, ooh, I'd have sex with him. And then bing.
Can I just say, shout out to our former coworker, Stu Morris, who whenever it would come time to make our football picks or our NCAA picks, Stu Morris would, in fact, pick teams based on the color schemes. And if he liked that one more than the other, and his winning percentage was better than mine and Tank's, and that sucked and it hurt and it really...
It was. He got really lucky, though, that year, because remember, he really liked the black and gold color, and that was the year that Georgia Tech made the run to the Final Four. It was the only reason that he won.
Good stuff. Whenever I see that picture of Bill Clinton, I just think of the bit that Conan O'Brien used to do with the mouth. That's all I think of when I see that picture. Okay, Bill Clinton. Team Clinton enters the tournament. An impressive resume, obviously, here. You've got one of the largest tax increases in American history, increasing your income tax, which, again, the selection committee hates taxes. Just letting you know. Corporate tax, gasoline tax, so much went up under Bill Clinton. His administration's handling of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, cited as a stain as well. Pun intended. The federal prison population ballooned under Clinton's watch after the 1994 crime bill passed. Clinton actually later admitted that mass incarcerations under his watch was regrettable. And then he deployed the U.S. military more than 24 times over his 8 years. And many believe that Clinton's close personal ties to China were illegal in nature. Huh.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
I feel like I've heard a story like that recently.
Recently, huh? Personal scandals.
He's a good boy.
Likely distracted him late in his presidency as Clinton was fighting impeachment. While the threat from terrorist group Al-Qaeda escalated ahead of the September 11th, 2001 attacks. And the reorganizing of U.S. intelligence services under Clinton's watch likely also contributed to those failures. But, I mean, Bill Clinton, I mean, he is the OG president, I guess, for lying under oath, right? I mean, when you say that, I mean, which seems quaint compared to 2024 standards. So, I mean, regardless, I mean, he drew a number 2 seed. That's impressive right there. But Bill Clinton, this is going to be interesting to see if it does end up the way it's expected in that region. it could be Bill Clinton versus Lyndon Johnson. Okay, Benjamin Harrison. Again, the selection committee. My goodness, they have some. They have some personal issues with some of our former presidents, and I believe Benjamin Harrison is one of them. But he claims the last spot. He's a 3 seed here. Do you have any thoughts on Benjamin Harrison, Tank Spencer?
Other than the fact that he tried to, and we didn't bring this up earlier, but I did want to mention this when we talked about FDR and the court packing that he tried. Right? Packing the Supreme Court. He wanted 15 justices on the Supreme Court to get all his crap pushed through, and then, of course, ended up losing that case.
That's a good one.
This guy tried to pack the entire election process.
Tell us.
He expanded the country, right? It brought on North Dakota and South Dakota, Montana, Washington, Idaho, and Wyoming. And part of the whole goal behind that was the thought that if we bring in these states, the Republicans will never lose another election. You talk about election interference.
So this Benjamin Harrison, for those that don't know, he's kind of the hammock in between the 2 non-consecutive terms of Grover Cleveland. So he was in the 4 years between Grover Cleveland's terms. And I will just say that an argument can definitely be made that Benjamin Harrison used to have 4 months between the election and the start of the next term. It wasn't until March 4th that you were inaugurated back in those olden times. I think it was all the way like that until maybe Kennedy was president. I think he might have been the first to get sworn in January. So anyhow, but an argument can be made that Harrison effectively set fire to the U.S. economy as almost a sour grapes after his defeat to Grover Cleveland in 1892. So what that set the stage for was the Panic of 1893. But I mean, seriously, just look at some of the stuff that this guy did. And by the way, this is a fun fact. The McKinley tariff, it raised the average duty on imported goods by 50%. And that helped lead us into the economic disaster of 1893, which, if I'm not mistaken, by most measurements, was probably the worst economic depression up until that point in American history. And so, of course, that doomed Grover Cleveland's. I'm sorry. The folks that serve on the selection committee are Grover Cleveland apologists, and so they. I think it's fair to say that, and that's the other thing. Hello, Hawaii. How you doing out there? I know Hawaii loves Grover Cleveland because Grover Cleveland, the last electable Democrat, he stood in the way of the annexing of Hawaii. But boy, the presidencies around Grover Cleveland, including Benjamin Harrison, when the Queen was dethroned, also that plantation owners and pineapple growers and sugar plantation folks could rule the roost there in Hawaii. I mean, just Benjamin Harrison and the Congress at that time, bad people. At least we have really good people in office now.
Yes.
So anyway, that's our. I'm sorry, I didn't get to my picture of. There's old Benjamin Harrison. So let's talk about some. Oh no, this is a really cool fun fact because I love the history. Benjamin Harrison is the earliest recording we have of a president's voice, and it's from. So it's from 1889. Now, this is fascinating. Rutherford B. Hayes, his voice was recorded earlier than Benjamin Harrison's, but some dummy lost that recording. We don't know where it is. Can you imagine how much it'd be worth if you found it?
Oh, no doubt.
Check your Salvation Army. I'm sure there's like old,
I doubt it.
Gramophone. I don't know whose voice is this. I don't know. It says President Hayes on the outside of this container. Well, let's see. So somewhere out there is the voice of Rutherford B. Hayes, but the oldest recording we have belongs to that guy, Benjamin Harrison. So I thought that was fun. So the bubble burst for several presidents. U.S. Grant actually almost made this tournament. Just so much corruption under his administration. Zachary Taylor missed the cut. And in fact, we had a camera, and it wasn't much. There's a lot of sadness at the Team Zachary Taylor camp. Very sad over there because they got the news that they didn't make the tournament. He was disliked by the North and the South in the lead up to the Civil War. Boy, you talk about suck.
That's hard to do.
Right? Millard Fillmore. Now, he's proof that one president can compromise too much. He wanted everybody to like him, and it almost got him into the tournament, is what it almost did. But in the end, his candidacy into this tournament, his bid, if you will, fell through. Gerald Ford, pardon of Nixon. The selection committee doesn't like the swine flu vaccine either, and some tax hikes under Gerald Ford. But it just he has a good guy vibe going for him. So George H.W. Bush with his no new taxes pledge. I've said it before. The selection committee doesn't like taxes, but H.W. didn't make it in. Do you have any thoughts here as we look at these matchups? I mean, this is some fascinating stuff here. As I find the bracket. Oh, just go back one, dummy.
The actual bracket, yeah.
There it is. Okay, so let's start here. This is the so this first tournament game, Tank, is going to be. How do I keep losing the? Oh my gosh, Malinak. Okay, so this Thursday, just a few days from now, Woodrow Wilson versus Franklin Pierce. Again, these matchups will be pinned to the top of @KeithMalinak. Tank, give us your Twitter handle while we have you here.
I am at SportsTankESPN.
Okay, so @SportsTank ESPN.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do with these. I don't know if you're going to retweet them, but if your followers want to keep along, no pressure to retweet my stuff, Tank. But on Thursday, we're going to have the vote open. Woodrow Wilson versus Franklin Pierce. On Friday, March 22nd, Franklin Roosevelt versus Richard Nixon. On Saturday, March 23rd, Joe Biden versus George W. Bush. On Sunday, March 24th, Andrew Jackson versus James Buchanan. Then we move over to the other side. Barack Obama versus William Howard Taft. On Monday, March 25th. On Tuesday, March 26th, it's Jimmy Carter versus Herbert Hoover. Man, I am looking forward to that one. I think it's gonna be close. I got that circled. That one's circled for Tuesday of next week. On Wednesday, March 27th, I'm also looking forward to this one. We got to wait for all the good ones, man. Lyndon Johnson versus Abraham Lincoln, and then Bill Clinton versus Benjamin Harrison. Don't forget, folks, Benjamin Harrison screwed over Grover Cleveland. That's got to be worth some votes. That's going to be on Thursday, March 28th. Then when we look ahead to the semifinals, the Woodrow Wilson Franklin Pierce winner will take on the Franklin Roosevelt Richard Nixon winner. Now, the voting for that is going to be on Friday, March 29th. Saturday, March 30th, you're going to have the winner from Joe Biden versus George W. Bush taking on the winner of Andrew Jackson versus James Buchanan. On Sunday, March 31st, Easter Sunday, that's when you get to vote for the winner of Barack Obama and William Howard Taft. That's when that winner takes on the winner of Jimmy Carter, Herbert Hoover. And then we round out our Elite Eight on Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. You'll have the winner of Lyndon Johnson, Abraham Lincoln, taking on the winner of Bill Clinton, Benjamin Harrison. Then when we move to the Final Four, that's when the voting is going to be open for a couple of days, April 2nd and 3rd. On the left side of the bracket, April 4th and 5th on the right side of the bracket. And then we've got a 3-day championship that concludes on NCAA basketball tournament championship Monday, April 8th. So April 6th, 7th, and 8th, you have 3 days to vote in the championship round. Do you have a favorite as you look at the way this is mapped out and the way it's all laid before us, Tank? Do you have a prediction on how this is going to go? Keep in mind, the selection committee, their hands are now off of this bracket. It's all up to the people to decide who the worst president of all time is. Do you see a path for somebody? Do you see maybe a dark horse sneaking in a couple of rounds, or what do you see?
Joe Biden straight to the Final Four. There's not another person in that bracket that I think will come close to Joe Biden.
It feels like he got a path that a number 1 overall seed would give if you had a number 1 overall seed. Yeah,
it does kind of feel that way.
Okay, so
Gets
who
the
do you
easiest bracket. He goes through to the Final Four. Okay, I'll give you my Final Four.
So this is who
I
you would
believe-
put through, or is this who you think will get to the Final
This is
Four,
who
or
I
who you want to see
believe-
in the who you think will get there? Okay, let's hear it.
Yes, because if it were me, I would have Franklin Pierce in the Final Four out of these others. But I just really hate him.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
I believe I have to go with Woodrow Wilson,
Okay,
Joe Biden, Barack Obama,
Mhm.
and Bill Clinton. I think
Oh,
that's going
Bill
to be your Final Four. We're going to have an upset coming out of that other bracket.
Interesting.
I don't think people are going to vote for Abraham Lincoln. You
So
still
you
have
think-
the freed the slaves thing that
Okay.
yes, it's important. You got to kind of look at the worst president thing
what
in
if
the context of abuse of power.
Right. And people should read up on Abraham Lincoln, because there were some golden opportunities to free the slaves without going to war. But do your own research before you vote, because that matchup between Lyndon Johnson and Abraham Lincoln doesn't happen until March 27th. So you called the upset there. Bill Clinton over Lyndon Johnson is what you expect.
Yes.
Do you have a take on who might win that? I think the matchup we're all looking forward to, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think Tuesday, March 26th, when Jimmy Carter battles Herbert Hoover, that's going to be fun to keep a close eye on as the votes get tallied.
Yeah, I just think when you have shanty towns named after you, I don't think Jimmy Carter comes close.
So you're saying another upset. You're seeing a 3 over a 2 there.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, I think we'll end up with Herbert Hoover against Barack Obama.
Interesting. Okay. And so do you see Obama or Hoover making it to the Final Four?
I think Obama will make it.
Okay. And then out of our states bracket, bottom right-hand corner, you already mentioned Clinton is probably going to be the representative out of there. So, okay, it's going to be fun to watch. I really hope a lot of people will participate. Share not only this podcast with your friends, but make sure that they follow along at Keith Malinak to vote, because that's where all the stuff's going to be. And encourage everyone to participate. And it's going to be a fun time. I'm going to have a lot of fun watching the votes coming in. This is going to last all the way until April 8th. Oh, yeah, there's my where'd it go? There, right there. Yep. That's my Twitter handle. And yours is not on your screen. I could never be a weatherman. This is not easy. You should have written, what is it? At Sports Tank ESPN.
ESPN.
And your podcast, it's Sportsocracy.
Yes, sir.
You and Jeremy do this every day, right? Where can people listen to that? And it's all sports, right? No one drags you into politics. It's just if people want to talk sports.
We try. We try not to talk politics. In fact, it's a running.
Can you hear that?
It's the fact it's a running joke on our show that we don't do politics. However, we do a lot of political jokes sometimes. It's just in passing. We don't spend much time on it. We're a football show mainly. We will talk about other sports when it's necessary, which means the dog days of summer when there's nothing else going on. But mostly we talk football and the Sportsocracy. It is the Democratic Republic of Sports. See, we do have a little bit of a name there, democracy, sports, all just mashed up into one. But yeah, we are on every day, 12 to 3 live on the iHeartRadio app.
12 to 3 Eastern.
Everywhere you go. Mm-hmm.
12 to 3 Eastern, iHeartRadio, Sportsocracy. My buddy Tank Spencer, who is also in my fantasy football league, where I've been the commissioner since 1999. And Tank joined shortly thereafter once I had the pleasure of meeting him in 2004. He was part of league expansion early on.
Yeah, quickly won the title like the first year and then not sniffed it since. So
first
yay!
Year. Yeah. I've been in last place in our league for how many years running now? Don't answer that. Okay, so anyway, Tank Spencer, thank you so much for making time, and thank you for watching. Please share this. Again, if you're watching on Twitter X, the YouTube channel where this podcast will live, as well as so much of the other stuff that we do. Check out the playlist. We had a fascinating conversation about Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 recently, but we live stream every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's youtube.com/@the-mic with Keith. Tank, thanks so much for being a part of this, and I'm looking forward to watching the votes come in and see how this thing ends up. Do you have, by the way, Do you have a prediction? Maybe your Final Four. Have you already filled out your bracket for the NCAA basketball tournament? Do you have a champion picked over there? Or is it too soon?
UConn.
That's who I've got.
UConn's my national champion.
But I know nothing about basketball.
Yeah, they're head and shoulders above everybody else. I think they're the strongest team in the country. Obviously, I want my North Carolina Tar Heels to do well. I think they will make the Final Four, but I don't think we can beat UConn.
I went to the University of Nebraska, and they are the only Power 5 school that has never won an NCAA tournament game. Is this the year? Texas A&M, we're coming for you Friday at 6:50 p.m. Eastern. Anyway, okay.
I
Thanks
didn't
so
even
much.
know you made the tournament, so congratulations on that.
What? This has been an incredible year. All right. Even I knew that. I don't even watch college basketball. Anyway, all right, kids. Have a good one. Y'all take care. Thanks so much.
Take it easy, brother. Appreciate it.
Bye.